Count. Okay. Okay. I gotta look here. Welcome to the press box, because I don't want to go. Hey, welcome to the sports zone. No, I'm just. Where's Bob and Jerry? Welcome to the press box, folks. My name's Jim Weimer, and with me is Jake Vigna. After week 3 of high school football, some exciting games again last weekend. We also started to shape up who's the real contenders and who are teams that are going to fall by the wayside. I had a chance on last Friday night to see Marine City for the first time against Marysville, another good rivalry game. They kind of ran the gauntlet with rivalries to start out with: Algonac down the road, St. Clair, and then Marysville. So to get through those 3 unscathed, unbeaten, pretty well for a Mariner start.
It is, and especially since they always tend to prepare for those games down the road, because those are always the game that, like I said before, really dictate your season, because you could go off when we'll go into the playoffs but they'd be like, hey, did you beat St. Clair? Did you beat Marysville? No? Well, what kind of season is that? But it could be 13-1, lost to only St. Clair or Marysville, and they say, well, you didn't beat them. Well, it's still a great season.
Just like a year ago, the Bell went to St. Clair after a great game at East China. St. Clair captures the MAC gold. Marine City wins the state title. I think probably looking back at it, they'll take that state title, but it's always nice to beat a rival. But the game with Marysville, the Vikings hung with them. The final was 38-23. Marysville scored a late touchdown to pull it a little bit closer. But for 2.5 quarters, it was a pretty dang good football game.
It was a very competitive game. I always kind of thought it would be pretty competitive, but not as competitive as this game was, because Marysville really hung on there in the final quarter, but then Marine City kind of took it to them pretty good. They always seem to be a fourth quarter team, a second half team. It's always we'll do what we can do best, and then go into halftime, make some adjustments, and then go from there. And it always seems to work pretty well. And but it was a really good game, and I was glad I filmed it.
I think Marysville's play calling early on was pretty creative. Also kept Marine City's defense off balance a little bit. I talked to Dennis Fitzsimmons afterwards, and I thought Marine City's front 7 did a great job of shutting down Marysville's running game. But Marysville scores first on a little tight end screen. Great read by Phil Griefor, the quarterback, and hits Kyle Cook, the tight end, and he made some good moves along the Marine City sideline, scores. There was another stretch in the game, too. It was 19-13 Marine City. They have a slant pattern in the end zone. I thought the receiver had caught it, but it bounced off his chest. They settled for a field goal. If Marysville scores on that possession, kicks the extra point, they go up 20-19. Big momentum switch. They end up getting the field goal to make it 19-16, and then Marine City scores 19 straight points. So the momentum kind of switched a little bit. But I kind of wrote a story for The Voice this week about that defense, and I think everybody knows about the M&M boys, the Alex Merchant and Jarrett Matheson, and they're going to put up big numbers. They're going to be hard to stop. But it's how well that defense plays down the stretch. And I think that's going to be the key, because they're missing some people from back there from a year ago. In the secondary, missing some linemen, but they're filling the pieces in right now. I think a biggest thing, too, I talked to Coach Glodich and the defensive coordinator, Matt Pollock, is building some depth. They need to get some depth going, and I think these next 3 to 4 weeks they'll be able to develop that.
Right, and I think that defense really tends to get overlooked by always the offensive greats. You know, when I was playing in 2011, it was always Anthony Scarcelli. Anthony Albo was a great tackle. The whole O-line was getting so much credit, and Adam Kroll was coming out of nowhere. But the defense didn't really get the recognition that really it deserved because of those players, and it was always a great defense. You know, we always came up with some key interceptions, key sacks, great tackles. You know, setting up all those scores for the offense, and then same this year. It's getting I think it's getting a bit overlooked by Merchant and Matheson. Don't get me wrong; they're great players. I love watching them play, but it really is a great defense. They haven't given up much yards after the catch. You know, they always seem to be right there. They always seem to, whenever they run the ball, there was always a bunch of group tackling. It's those little things that really dictate it, and I think Marine City has a great defense.
Well, the thing is, too, on the offensive side, they're going to move the chains. They're going to keep with Trevor Quant running. I thought Alex Merchant had a good mix with the passing game and running game. He made some outstanding passes. Whenever you get Matheson swinging out of the backfield and someone's got to pick him up, either a linebacker or a safety or something, it's a tough mismatch. Talking to Mark Kazza afterwards, he said, we were just flat-footed on a couple plays. Well, those couple plays ended up hurting them. Mm-hmm. Cole Avers, I thought, made some nice over-the-shoulder catches. And like Kazza said, you got to give credit to them. Those are good catches. So, good start for the Mariners, 2-0, but another team sitting at 2-0 also in the MAC Gold is Warren Woods Tower. They came up to Port Huron Northern or Memorial Stadium on Friday night and handled the Huskies 47-14. They're rolling pretty good. So I think we're looking at week 8 of the MAC Gold. It'll be the finale of the division play, and Tower will be playing Marine City, and I think that's going to be the showdown.
That'll probably be the decider of the division, and it'll be. I think it'll be a great game. It's going to be a great competition. Warren Woods Tower has got some good players this year, really rolling right now, blowing out every team that they face, and it's great. It's going to be a great competition for Marine City. It'll really be a good deciding factor of where they're really at that point in the season, and where they look to be in the playoffs.
And I think the coaching staff will look, and every team's going to do that, is look to build some depth between now and that late run in the season. And I think sometimes you play that real strong competition week 8 or 9, and it just propels you into the playoffs, where you kind of blow some people out and you kind of get lazy a little bit, get a little careless. So I think that'll be a good one going in. And that's nothing to take away from some of these other MAC Gold, but I think it's all going to be kind of a fight in there for like second and third. Marysville's 1-1 now in the league and 1-2 overall. St. Clair pulled out a wild one down at Sterling Heights, 32-31. They go to 1-1, 2-1 in the league. And Larry Ochadis had a great performance, 4 touchdowns, I think 167 yards rushing, threw for 55 yards. He has just been carrying them on their shoulders.
He's a tough runner too, and that's what really surprises me, especially with quarterbacks in high school, because you see a lot of them. They don't really want to get hurt. They want to protect themselves, so they'll slide. And even in the college and the NFL, they'll always slide. You don't see really many tough running QBs, but he'll tend to take it himself. He's not the fastest runner alive, but he's got good speed. He'll hurt you with some speed if you let him go a little too much. And then he's pretty he's elusive.
Yeah.
He can break tackles decent. He can break tackles decently, and he'll score for you when you need it.
Yeah. And really, the Matt Gold coaches, he's no mystery to them. They know about him last year because he filled in at fullback when Brandon Boyd had some leg injuries. So he was a big part of that offense a year ago around Bowen, Blake, Meldrum, Jared, Toby. So all he has is switch positions, but he's still running them with the ball, and he's running tough. This week it becomes crossover. So now you get away from league play, at least in the Gold. Marine City hits the road, goes to Mount Clemens. The game that we'll be televising is Clawson at St. Clair. Clawson's leading the Bronze with a 2-0 record. They're 2-1. Marysville has their homecoming, and they are playing New Haven. So it's kind of we take a little bit of break from the league play, and just another thought on that the Marysville team. They're so young, but as Coach Kaza says, I'm tired of hearing about we're young. You got to put that aside, and you got to start winning games. And I still think he has a real good team. He's still looking to make a playoff push.
Right.
And with that running backs, they have that group of 3 of them that are solid. Phil Griefor's getting better and better quarterback. They're going to be pretty tough. It'll just be a matter of how they do with like St. Clair and Northern, Sterling Heights, some of those teams. So, but also up in the Mac White, Port Huron High, boy, they're rolling right now. They lost that opener to Martin Luther King, always a traditional powerhouse. They've shut out their last 2 opponents, and so their defense is carrying that team. And they got a little help last weekend. They are the only undefeated team in the MAC White. Grosse Pointe South, Utica Ford, Romeo, and Anchor Bay are all 1-1. So Port Huron High this week is home with a league game. They're playing Grosse Pointe South. So we'll have to keep an eye on them. Over in the BWAC, it's just usually it's a mumble-jumbled race right to the end, and it's just down to 2 teams. I really think it's down to Richmond and Elmont. When they collide, that'll be for the championship. They seem to be the most powerful. Richmond hadn't given up a point, and they played Croslex and beat them 56-21. Well, someone said, well, they gave up 21 points, but they put 56 up on
the board.
So I think they're going to be really tough. They're ranked number 3 in Division 4. Marine City's ranked number 2 in Division 5, and Elmont's ranked number 8 in Division 5. So I think as we get late in the season, people are really going to want. I mean, it'd be cool to see that matchup, the Marine City-Richmond matchup. But as far as our area making a run in the state playoffs, I think it'd be cool for one of them to stay in 4, the other one to stay in 5.
Right. And it'll definitely keep the headaches away because they don't like each other. You know, it's a new rivalry within this division. When I played them, you know, they played tough, physical, mean, and same as last year when Marine City played them. They were tough, they were physical, fast, mean. You know, they don't like each other, and they really want to get in each other's heads. And I think if that does happen, you know, it would be great for the area to see 2 teams make great playoff runs, and it'll just keep a headache away from both teams. You know, really keep the emotions pretty calm, level. You know, especially when you're getting into the playoffs, you want to keep the emotions level. You want to stay focused, and you focus on one thing: winning games. You keep winning games. You go game by game. You get to your ultimate goal, which is winning a state championship.
Right, and I think it's a situation where they've collided the last couple of times, regular season and playoffs. And I remember last year's run; they had to go through Marysville. Marine City did. They had to go through Richmond. Those are 2 tough ones right away because of the rivalry standpoint and the, you know, like you say, they don't like each other. And I asked Paul Costanzo from the Times Herald, I said, how good is this Richmond team? Are they better than last year? And he thinks they might be based on their run first, pass second. Where last year they kind of mixed the passing game in quite a bit early. But they have some outstanding running backs, good linemen, and they got some receivers that are just tough mismatches. So I look for Richmond to get a long run. They'll be tough. In the rest of those in that league a little bit, Yale beat K-Pac. Imlay City just handled Algonac. Armada rolled over, or Almont handled Armada pretty good. So there were some lopsided scores there. But also in our area too. I mean, we're talking Port Huron High can make a good run. A Marine City. I think St. Clair Marysville still have they have a shot to get in. Richmond's going to be strong. Our 8-man football, I see Peck is ranked #1 in the state, defending state champions. But they'll have a showdown later on coming up with Deckerville. So I think we have some good football coming up the next few weeks that'll kind of key into the playoffs. So on the college level, the Spartans were off this weekend. Michigan kind of pulled away in the second half against Miami, Ohio. Did you get a chance to see that one?
I got a chance to see a little bit of it. It was Michigan looked impressive. Looked like they really shook off that shutout loss to Notre Dame. But Miami, Ohio isn't necessarily nothing against them, but they're not the biggest. They're not a huge college necessarily. There's a difference between Miami, Ohio, and Miami. One is a much better football team, obviously, but it's good to see Michigan starting to shake off that big loss, and but now they got to focus this week on another crucial game to win. It's not necessarily another big college, but it'll be great to get the win and really catch up there in the Big Ten.
And I see Michigan State's back and staying in the state playing Eastern Michigan, so that should be they should have a bounce back from the Oregon loss. But speaking of big games this weekend too, is the Packers come into Ford Field Sunday to play the Lions. That whole, we were talking before we went on, that whole division is 1-1 after 2 weeks, and a couple surprises. The Bears winning at San Francisco, but the Lions, fresh off that Monday night game, beating the Giants, go on the road and lose at Carolina. And people are going, same old Lions. But got to remember, that was a Carolina team that was 12-4 last year. Probably one of the premier defenses. They say the defenses that are really stand out are like the Seattle, San Fran, Cincinnati's. But Carolina's defense is awful good.
They really sneak into one of the top defenses in the league because everyone looks at Seattle, everyone looks at San Francisco, they look at Cincinnati. Those are some top 3 defenses in the league. Well, what about other defenses? Carolina, and they're always in the mix, and they really made a good step up on defense. Really, when Luke Kuechly came to the mix, I love watching Luke Kuechly. He's a pure linebacker, just a professional player. Won Rookie of the Year when he first came into the league, and his Defensive Player of the Year last year. He's a great tackler, great coverage guy. You don't see him miss tackles that often. It's just a pure linebacker, and I love watching him play. It's fun to watch him play, but it's tough to see the Lions lose.
And this will be big because you're back at home. You got to protect home field. You slip up, and all of a sudden now you're chasing the Packers, in the standings. So I think it's a pretty crucial early season game, especially in conference, in the division. So, but also just on another little side note is I'll be covering this week the St. Clair County Community College volleyball team kicks off its league season with 2 home matches. They play Schoolcraft and Mott. If people want to get up and chance to see them, they play Tuesday, Thursday, 7 o'clock. They got a lot of good local kids. Kendall Stoll is a 6'3" girl from Anchor Bay that's really pretty solid. Alex Schell from Port Huron Northern. They're 8-4 in the early going. But also with this fall weather, it's kind of neat to see the baseball team out practicing, the softball team practicing. They're taking advantage of these weather conditions a little bit to get in some work. In fact, the college switched their golf season that they play conference play now in the fall and play about 6 matches and then take a break and then do their invitationals, states, regionals, and nationals in the spring. So I think it's kind of neat. They're trying it for the first time. I think it'll work out well. But if people want to get a chance to get up and watch the Skippers, they've got a pretty good team. So, but that's it for this week of the Press Box. Look forward to seeing you next week.